Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Funk Chronicles. I'm your host, Dr. Turk Logan from Logan Communication and the Funk Museum Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center. With me today, I have a very, very, very special guest. But before I go into that, I just want to let everybody know that March is Women's History Month. So we're going to talk about women in the funk, F-U-N-K. And this lady knows all about it. Miss Jannetta Warren, how you doing?
I'm good, Turk, and you?
I'm growing old gracefully. I'm getting it. The last time we talked, I had hair on my head. You know?
That's true.
You know, Jannetta, the last time I saw you was at our public relation meeting, and we sit right across from each other.
Correct.
And I hadn't seen you in ages. It had been ages.
Many moons.
And I said, boy, I know her from somewhere, but I need to know where I know her from because you didn't blow your horn, and then, you know, from that perspective. But then when I got in my car and I saw, I remember when she was a very, very, very young woman. You're still a young woman, but a very, very young woman, and did backup for the group Zapp with Roger.
That's right.
How did all that happen?
Well, it was a strange story. I was actually singing backup for an Elvis impersonator.
Okay.
And somehow through there, Roger and Larry heard about me and my friends singing background for the Elvis impersonator. So they asked us to, come sing for them and everything. And we did it at my friend's house. Okay. Right there in the living room. And we sung, and it went from there.
That's how it usually goes.
That's it.
We used to do that with Junie when he was in Dayton, Ohio, and we would audition. And he was kind of hard on the people, though, because he called them the soul chickens if they couldn't sing. But then we ran into three young ladies called the Allman Sisters, Gwen, Valeria, and Teresa.
Yes.
And those three young ladies could blow. I mean, it was all over then. What's your background? Tell us about your background in the business. How'd you get started?
Well, I started singing in high school choirs. From kindergarten on up. I always sung throughout grade school. 3 different choirs when I was in high school. And at the same time, simultaneously, I was working with the choirs and rehearsing with Zapp, because I was 16 years old and it happened just that fast.
Okay.
That day in that living room, they said, well, y'all can sing. Y'all mind coming in here with us and doing this in the studio? So we went straight to United Sound Studio in Detroit. Okay. And we recorded the first, we recorded More Bounce album and the Many Facets of Roger at the same time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So you picked up on it just like that,
just
picked up
like
on the
that.
music, and that's a talent. That's a gift that people like you have. You can hear it once, they can play it for you, then all of a sudden you fall right into place. Yeah. Tell me about some of your experiences out there with Zapp and Roger
Well, upon that, going into United Sound, the first person I met, of course after Larry and Roger, was Bootsy and George Clinton. Okay. And that...
Say no more.
Yeah, that moment there was, it was good though. It was good. It was exciting. And George was just George. Bootsy had on his glasses and his star glasses right there in the real dark studio and everything. And they were talking to me as we were recording, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, yeah. I didn't know what they were saying.
Not like singing in the choir, is it?
Right. It was a whole different universe dealing with them, but it was phenomenal.
Two talented guys, Bootsy and George, just
definitely.
Multi-talented.
Yes.
And being in the studio with Roger and Zapp and them, I'm sure it just complemented everything.
It was all right. And then hearing More Bounce on the radio and going to school, because I was in school, and people were like, girl, y'all song is on the radio.
That made you feel good, didn't it?
It did, but I was like, oh yeah, I got to get to class.
Right. Okay. Well, sometimes when you're in that situation, the two don't quite mix.
Exactly.
They don't mix.
Exactly.
Entertainment and education sometimes, especially at a young age.
They were so much more excited than I was.
Exactly.
I was thinking, I got to get, okay, that's good, but I got to get to the next class. So yeah.
One thing I do always remember about you from the standpoint of just watching you grow in the industry, you've always been grounded. And that's important because the businesses can be overwhelming within itself, and I'm sure you experienced. How long were you on the road with the guys?
For 5 years.
See, and during that time, you're still here, you're a mother of 2 boys, you're raising your sons, your wife, you have a regular day job, and you're still grounded.
Yes.
And I asked you before the show, had you done anything since you left the group, and how long have you been away from the group?
What, 35 years?
It's been that long?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, afterwards, after I left Zapp in '85, in just a few months after that, I did the Shirley Murdoch debut down at Jilly's.
Okay.
And actually, I was the only other female that sung on her debut album.
Is that right?
Yeah, so that's exciting.
Have you had any urge in the last 35 years to go back in the studio or to write music or to do anything yourself?
I've done all of that immediately following leaving Zapp, but I did a lot of recording and everything, and I actually did background singing for local artists, things like that. But after that, it was just being focused in being a good wife and then a good mother and raising them properly. So I didn't have that urge until recently. I didn't think I wanted it again.
Okay.
I went through a lot of things out there on the road, as many people do, but I like I said, dealing with my husband and my children and all
Your
that
husband was
wonderful
in the
things.
group as well?
And I married Michael Warren.
Okay.
Yeah, the trumpet player for Zapp.
Okay.
He was out of Cincinnati, so
Okay.
he was one of the guys. But recently, Greg Jackson, lead singer, frontman for Zapp. He's with Zapp right now.
Okay.
And he has his own thing called the Greg Jackson Experience.
Okay.
And I am now singing with him. Me,
Oh,
Bad
good.
Bobby Glover. Yeah.
Okay,
Eddie
I talked to
Barber.
Bobby Glover last year, and he was getting ready to retire from teaching, I believe, in
Yes,
Cincinnati.
he retired.
Right. So I kind of keep up. Well, one thing's for sure I've noticed, because I've lived it with all the groups that came out of Dayton and many more, and have some horror stories about some of the groups and some of the backup singers, especially the females.
Yeah.
But you were with a good group, and I'm not criticizing any of the other groups that came from Dayton, but you were with some good guys that treated you probably like a sister out on the road.
They did. They really did. Yeah, I was baby girl out there on the road. I was everybody's little sister. But again, just like other groups, we had our ups and downs.
Sure.
But we were, Larry was very strict, and that's not a bad thing because it kept us all out of trouble. We didn't get to hang out. We didn't do drugs or anything like that. And that's what our group was based on.
Well, people have approached me about that over the years since the tragic accident between Roger and Larry, that they want to tie that into drugs, and I have to stop them right there because, again, like I said, I lived it with these guys. And that's one thing I do know, that there were never any drugs associated with Larry or Roger or Zapp.
That's right.
Never any drugs. And I admired that with them, because I remember Larry told me one time, I was in his office, he said, Turk, I found a joint in the dressing room of one of my band members, and I fined him $10,000.
Yes, indeed. He didn't play that. He did not.
Boy, that would make me stop.
Exactly.
That would make me stop.
It did. And we did get fined for little tedious things sometimes. We was like, but we never did it again.
But you had discipline. It
We
was
had
a discipline.
Yes, we did.
And then it showed out on stage. That
Yes,
went right
it
to the
did.
stage. How many
Yeah.
members were in the group?
I think it was 10 of us.
10 of you on stage,
And
okay.
we rehearsed like 10 and 12 hours a day, sometimes 14, 16 hours a day. But it showed out there on that stage.
It made you professional.
Yes, it did.
You have 2 boys. Has any of that, those 2 genes, you from your husband and you, passed on to your sons?
Yes.
Okay.
And they don't really want to be in the business, but so that's okay by me. Kevon, 15 years old. He attends Stivers School for the Arts,
Okay.
and he's a violinist.
All right.
And he sings in the choir.
Can he sing?
And he sings,
Can he?
plays basketball, plays soccer.
Does all those things.
Does all those things. And my son, Leakim, is at Sinclair right now.
Okay, he's in
In
college.
computer graphic arts, and he also sung for Stivers Choir.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, I've noticed that over the years, because you said 35 years, some of the artists back then are grandparents today.
Yes.
And some of them, me, I'm a great grandfather, so been around for a few years. But some of that genetic ability had been transferred on to the kids, through the grandkids, and through the great grandkids. And somebody says, well, you know, I'm Sugar's son, or
Right.
I'm Satch's daughter, and it's interesting because you can see it, especially if they're on stage performing, and that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
Tell me about the group you're with now.
The Greg Jackson Experience. Actually, with Greg, we have Eddie Barber, who was a former trumpet player for Zapp as well.
Okay.
It was Zapp, horns was Michael, Eddie, and Jerome,
Okay.
and they're all from Cincinnati.
Okay.
So that was the Cincinnati
Great market,
connection.
great music market, Cincinnati.
Yeah, exactly. And they all, you know, they all worked around town together with Bootsy and Catfish and all those people. So anyway, and we had Sherman Fleetwood out of Cincinnati. I mean, out of Hamilton.
Okay.
And with the Greg Jackson Experience, we also picked up Gordon Hicklin, who used to actually be the road manager for Bootsy. And we got Tim Abrams from New Horizon. Remember
Okay.
New Horizons?
I remember that. Yeah.
Had their own album.
And so
album out.
what kind of music we doing?
It's a mixture of funk. We got a little bit of jazz. We got a little blues. We got a little bit of some of everything in
So
there.
are you singing any leads?
Not yet, no.
Okay, well, let's hope so that you get out
I
there.
will. I
Good,
will.
good.
People will hear me, and I'm in the studio right now.
Excellent.
Working with another Zapp former trumpet player, Robert Sine.
Okay.
He's Robert Kumbas.
Okay, I remember
So-
him. I remember him.
So I'm working with him, and he's a jazz artist, though.
Okay, good,
Local
good.
jazz artist, and he's doing his thing. He
So
got
getting a mixture of everything.
I'm getting, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the Funk Chronicles with your host, Dr. Turk Logan. This is Women's History Month, and we're very, very honored and proud to have a great musician and a very talented young lady and a dear friend, Jannetta Warren, who sang backup for the worldwide group Zapp. Did you ever go overseas with any?
I did not.
You didn't?
I didn't, and that was something too. As soon as I left the group, of course, they went over to Japan and Europe and all these places.
Right, right.
But contrary to popular belief, it was me. I was the only girl in the band in Zapp for the first 5 years.
You know, it's an interesting story that only I could tell, because the former president of Central State University, Dr. Arthur Thomas, I worked with him for 10 years of his tenure as president. And one of his stories is he was in Japan in a club where Roger and Zapp were performing, and they came up to him, and he just had the best time because he loved that group. He and Larry being a graduate of Central State, and he and Larry were very close over the years. And he is 77 years old, and he still talks about it today. That's been 40 years ago. So you didn't get a chance to go overseas. Where did you travel around the country?
We hit everywhere around the United States except, Alaska,
Right.
Maine.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. And you know, you had such a. It's interesting because I say that you're so grounded, but you're back in the studio. And are you recording with these? Because you said studio, you're recording.
With Robert Snay, I'm actually doing my own thing.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah, and I've written a book called Girl in the Band.
Okay. Okay. And when
Girl
is
in
it
the
going to be
Band.
released? Is it
Well, now the release date, I'm not sure of.
self-published?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be this coming June, but I had to push that date back because of some things going on. But
Okay.
it will be out, and with that is why I recorded the CD,
Right.
and it'll probably be Girl in the Band too.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Keep Girl in the Band.
Yeah, I'm doing
and,
my
and
thing
you
so
talk
people will
about
know.
your experiences with the group and
Yes,
everything. And
definitely.
well, that's a good thing because you know black women and when I worked at Central State from 1986 to 2009, and during that 23 years, I also taught at Wilberforce University. Of the 2,500 young people that came through me from both universities, 2,400 of them were women.
Okay.
You know, 2,400 of them were women.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Great.
And so much talent that just needed to be molded and directed into their particular their careers and whatnot. And it was such a great time seeing children like Omarosa come from Youngstown and come through Central State University and then become what she's becoming right now.
Strong woman.
Strong woman. And right now she's an ordained minister in out in Hollywood. And she calls me Dad, so we talk a lot, you know. And so that book would fit exactly, if I'm hearing what you're saying, for some of these young women, if that's the direction that you're saying.
Yeah, I have a lot of life lessons in there, especially for these young girls who think it's just a walk in the park. Oh, I'm going to be a singer. You know, they want to be in the videos and all that kind of stuff. And I'm telling them exactly how it was out there on the road and how it is today, because I still keep connected. I still talk to people out there on the road. And it's nothing to play with. It's out there. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. It's
called show business.
Exactly.
And so many and it happens across the board, not only in entertainment, it happens in sports as well.
Yes.
Because my career took me into the press box at Central State University, and as a result of this championship ring, Central State won 3 national championships, 90, 92, and 95.
Right.
Little bitty Central State University was putting kids in the pros, so they would go from $0 to $1 million contracts.
All that money,
and that money can change you
if
you don't know what to do with it. Same way with entertainment.
Yes.
We lost Larry and Roger in 1998, I believe, and I planted a tree in my yard for both of them. It's a berry tree. And every now and then I get too close to it and it sticks me, you know, it's got little splinters on it. How did that affect you?
That morning was, it's still really hard for me to, now you got me thinking about it again. And I think it's coming up, the anniversary of his death is coming up. It's April the 25th or 26th. It was 1999.
1999. Okay.
Yeah, I'll never forget that day. All the phone calls and everything. And I had just ran into Roger a week before that.
Okay.
And 2 weeks before that, I had talked to Larry. Larry stopped by my house. You know, he's playing with the kids and everything and talking, and, you know, we're shucking and jiving. And it was really nice. And then a week after that, I ran into Roger up at Kroger's. Kroger's on Siebenthaler.
Okay.
And there he was. I was pregnant at the time.
Okay.
So, you know, he's teasing with Mike back and forth about me being pregnant again. You know, Roger loves children. He loves adding more and more kids.
Right.
And it was a good moment. He and I talked about, he was telling me all about his work and what he was doing.
You had left the group.
Yeah, this was just before, I left the group in 85 and Roger died in 99. And I had just seen him. And he was like, you know, I'm doing some things, and he was so excited and full of life, as he always, you know how he was. Right. And he was talking to Donald Duck with my other son, my oldest son, Leakim, and everything. And he, yes.
Trust me.
And he asked, he was talking to Mike and everything, and he asked me to come back into the studio. And he, I think at that time he was getting ready to put the original members of Zapp back together.
Okay.
Or at least have them to join what he was doing, because he was just, he was like, I'm doing these things, and you're my sweetness, you're my angel, I need you, I need you. And he asked me to come back.
I had just talked to Roger just before he passed away, because I knew he was getting ready to go out west with 2 very known, well-known rappers, Tupac and Dr. Dre.
That's right.
And I had said to him, because of my position on certain lyric content in the music, which I never had to worry about with any of the Dayton groups, but did have to worry about with some of the rappers at that time. And I said to him, you know, man, I've always loved you and supported you, but if you get into that market and I start hearing some of the things that I've been hearing, then I'm gonna back up. And he said, oh, Turk, you don't have to worry about that. And then they went out and did California Love, which is a good song. I mean, it went double platinum. And it was 2 versions of it, as I recall, because I had both of them on my radio station. And both good songs and clean-cut versions. And I was very pleased that at least when he got into it, because a lot of people don't know that Roger was a producer. And a lot of the rappers were rappers, but they didn't know much about production. And so they purged that together from that standpoint. And it made a good combination, especially for them to have a guy like Roger in the studio with his studio skills, and that worked for them. And then shortly after that, the tragedy happened. So I was very, very sad to hear that. But so Jannetta Warren today is a mother, she's a wife, and still a recording artist.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. You are also involved in the Funk Museum Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center. How important is that we put this together and leave a legacy for our children?
That is very important. The Funk Center is going to do so many things for Dayton, period. The revenue and everything that it's going to bring to this area. You know, we have right up the street the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and then in Canton we have the R&B Hall of Fame, and this thing is going to really put Dayton on the map, even bigger, much larger than what it has. Yeah, I mean, we were already on the map because of all the things that we've done here. But it's very important. It's going to leave a legacy for all of our children. You know, we tell these, like you said, we meet these children every day who were siblings and all this of all these other legends here in Dayton.
And like you said, many of them don't know.
They don't know, so it's up to us, and this is what the Funk Center is going to bring. We're going to be able to teach them that, and they're going to get the educational part of it from first-hand musicians. That's really, really important.
Well, that is definitely long overdue, definitely needed. I've been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on several occasions, and when I walk through there, I'm amazed at some of the artists that I see, but I'm a little let down at some of the artists that I think should be there that are not, you know. And so we could probably close that gap and again bring it home to Dayton, Ohio with artists from Dayton and around the world. Jannetta's been great. We, you know, I was hoping that we'd have some time to talk. Didn't think we would be doing it on the Funk Chronicles, but this is even better. So thank you for joining us here. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking to Miss Jannetta Warren, former backup singer with the worldwide renowned group Zapp featuring Roger, and I'm Turk Logan for the Funk Chronicles from the Dayton Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center. Thanks for joining us.